as I mentioned, my name is Alexis. I am a student recruiter for the Faculty of Engineering. And today I am joined by four wonderful students who are going to tell you all about their experiences within our faculty. And then they'll be able to answer any and every question that you have, whether it's regarding their experiences or any element of the faculty. If you want tips for first year, if you're looking for information about student clubs, we're going to be able to cover all of that and discuss all of that today. So thank you so much for joining us. And the University of Alberta actually has three campuses. So we were established in 1908, meaning that the campus that's in Edmonton, the largest campus that's photographed here, it actually had the city of Edmonton kind of build around it. And our three campuses are spread amongst three different treaty territories within Canada. So treaties 6, 7, and 8, and the homeland of the Métis. And the University of Alberta is so fortunate to have the country's only Faculty of Native Studies, first and only. And we are so fortunate to have these knowledge keepers and elders present with us on campus, and we continue to learn from them. And we want to ensure that our practices allow for their cultural practices to thrive and maintain. So today, this is kind of our agenda. We're going to start off with a panel presentation, and this is when all of our students will share about their experiences within the Faculty of Engineering and what they have prepared for you. And then we're going to have a moderated Q&A. So you'll find in your Zoom function that there's a Q&A button on the bottom panel. We have disabled the chat for this session, just because we want to keep all of your questions in one place so we can keep track of them and ensure that they get answered. And so we'll have our moderated Q&A after the panel presentation. And then I'm just going to discuss briefly the important dates and events that are coming up that you may be interested in attending. So today we are answering a very big question. And that big question is, what is engineering? At the U of A, we like to say that it's turning thinking into doing. We are making sure that our students are equipped to take their wildest ideas and turn it into something tangible and turn it into something that will assist others and make the world a better place through their work. But engineering is far more than just the classes. Engineering is a lot of teamwork. So for every project that an engineer takes on, you need to have multiple types of engineers on that project. This photo is of the Edmonton LRT system, and it helps kind of break down all of the different areas of engineering that would have been involved in opening an LRT station. Engineering is community. Our Faculty of Engineering has such a vibrant student life, and there are so many fantastic groups and people within the program that they really do make it a wonderful place to study and a wonderful community to be a part of. But you don't have to take my word for it. We have four incredible students here with me today that are going to tell you about their experiences within the Faculty of Engineering, and then you'll be able to ask all of your questions. So the Q&A should be open now. You are able to start submitting questions through the Q&A, but we aren't going to answer any of them until after all of the students have presented. So if you don't want to forget it, if you want to submit it early on, absolutely, you can do that. But we aren't going to start answering the questions until later. So to kick us off, I am going to pass it over to Mikhail, who is going to tell you about his experience within the Faculty of Engineering.
Yeah, thank you, Alexis. So, hi, everyone. My name is Mikhail Schmidtke. I use he, him, eel pronouns. And I am in my fifth and knock on wood final year of electrical engineering co-op at the University of Alberta. So to get into more kind of about me, um, I I am a former University of Lethbridge transfer student. Um, so I did do my first year back in Lethbridge, where I am actually from. So I'm born and raised um, back in southern Alberta. And I decided to move up north to kind of pursue electrical engineering in particular. Um, and really just because of my passion for electronics and applied sciences, but more so because for me, I love music. And I knew going down the route of being a musician wasn't the path forward for me, but I still really wanted to find a way to share my love of mathematics, electronics, and music. And so I'm actually trying to be an audio and instrument design engineer and potentially even start my own company. Um, so a bit more of kind of my time at the U of A. As my fifth year, I've had multiple co-op placements. Um, my most recent of which is in consulting at WSP Canada, specifically doing the electrical engineering work for building design, from power to audio visuals, communications, and lighting. Before that, I was a power electronics researcher at the University of Alberta, researching specifically into power faults and how to correct them and detect them. And then before that, I was a program instructor for Bridge to Engineering, which is a transitionary program for preparing high school actors before they enter first year of engineering. Now, kind of actually to get into some fun things about myself. So I've held many positions across student clubs on campus. My most prominent of which is this is my second year as vice president of external relations for the Engineering Student Society. But I've also held various roles in the Electrical Engineering Club, serving as their current grad rep and former VP Student Life. I've been a member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, EcoCar. I'm a general member of Diversity in Engineering, and I serve on various boards and committees for the university, such as the General Faculties Council. It's a whole lot of things, but it really just shows the amount of variety in student clubs that exist on campus, that there's so many different things you can tackle. And kind of to show off some pictures that really um, showcase kind of my time here. Um, I kind of going from left to right, I've had the honor of um, getting awarded a scholarship from APEGA, and that's a picture of me with the CEO of APEGA at the time, um, as well as a photo of me looking really awkward in a taxi on my way to a site visit for WSP because I can't drive. Um, but then also just showing my research posters, PCBs I've designed. And for me, a big part of my life is again being VP external. Um, when you're an engineering student, you're not limited to only your academics. You can have a massive social life. And for me, it's really rooted in going to conferences across the country, meeting people at other engineering schools, um, meeting other people in your same field of engineering, and really just making great friends along the way. And of course, my biggest friend of all is Grog, who is the mascot of the Engineering Student Society and is right there front and center of the screen. Grog is great. Um, and yeah, no, that's a bit about me. I I'm gonna be happy to answer any questions y'all have, especially if it relates to electrical engineering, transfer students, or just general student culture. But that's enough of me talking. I'm gonna pass it over to my friend Michael.
All right. Thanks, Mikhail, for the introduction. So, kind of as Mikhail said, my name is Michael. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm currently in my fifth year of chemical engineering, specifically in oil sands co-op here at the University of Alberta. So, just a kind of couple of things about me. I was actually born in Fort McMurray, Alberta, so just northern Alberta, and then I moved to Edmonton when I was 2 years old. From there, I guess, kind of as I mentioned earlier, fifth year chemical engineering. A fun fact about me that not a lot of people know is that I actually do have a degree with specifically a Bachelor of Science with specialization in immunology and infection. Long story short, I graduated, wanted to kind of go into engineering, and then decided to proceed with their right after. In terms of co-op experiences, so I've done 3 co-op terms already, 2 of which were within the pulp and paper industry out at the pulp mill located in Hinton, Alberta as a process engineering student. And then my first co-op term was actually as a materials tester out in the city of Calgary. Kind of apart from that, I have a lot of like student group and organization kind of experience. I've worked both like in the Students Union as the what's it called? Manager of, or not manager, but as the student event coordinator for Week of Welcome. So that Week of Welcome is kind of the big orientation that occurs during like right before school starts and during the first week. I'm also currently the Engineering Student Society co-vice president of social events, and this is my second year running it. From there, and at the next slide, you'll see a lot more photos. I also currently am serving as the University of Alberta Students' Union Engineering Counselor, one of two seats, as well as the General Faculties Council Counselor as well, which I believe is one of 6 or one of 7 seats. Not only that, but I also have the amazing opportunity to serve as the Western Engineering Competition 2026 chair. So kind of here, as you can see, I have many photos. So you could kind of see, I guess, from left to right as well, a photo of me in a digester from one of my co-op experiences. Then me with a couple of my friends who are also volunteering with Week of Welcome, getting our Masters of Welcome there. At the top, you could see my first term with my co at the time, Sierra, as the co-vice president of social events, presenting at Gear Week last year. At the bottom with like the red and many people and like balloon arch, that is me and my Gear Week team with the Gear Week trophy at Gear Week 82 just past January. Bottom left-hand side, you can see me again with my fellow team of counselors. So these are also students from various faculties such as the sciences, kinesiology, sport and recreation, education, and many more. And then kind of with the rest as well, it's me on various trips. Within engineering, you have so many opportunities to be able to go on kind of like conferences, like Mikhail said, competitions, and even various excursions. So I guess going from the top right, with the gong in it, that's actually a trip that I just came back from recently, this past weekend. It was the Conference on Sustainability and Engineering hosted at the University of Guelph. And there it's like the team that I did a case comp with that we actually won first place at. Underneath that, with like kind of the water, is me at the Royal Canadian Navy. So they actually hosted a lot of like, or last year and this year as well, they've hosted U of A students to kind of visit the Royal Canadian Navy out in Esquimalt in Victoria or in British Columbia to kind of see the infrastructure as well as various opportunities for engineers there. At the bottom right-hand side, you kind of see like the flag. That's essentially me with my fellow incoming, or sorry, fellow vice presidents with the Western Engineering Competition, as well as a couple of our directors and coordinators as well, as we kind of got the opportunity to see how the competition is held and then kind of taking experiences learned from there. And last but not least, in the middle photo is me at a conference at St. John's last year called the Canadian Engineering Leadership Conference, where I'm featuring kind of Grog as well as a couple of the other school's mascots within that photo. But yeah, that's a bit about me. I'll pass it off to Lance, who is next.
Sorry, Michael, before we pass it off, do you mind just explaining to our participants what Gear Week is? Because they may not actually know.
For sure. So, Gear Week is essentially a week-long well, just slightly over a week-long competition that is a friendly competition between each of the 9/10 discipline clubs that we have here at the U of A. For all of you who are joining the U of A in the fall semester, you're automatically part of the first year engineering club, who is actually part of the one of the bigger teams. Honestly, y'all should have a big chance of winning because when compared to other students, you're like in the thousands of students versus everyone else in other disciplines can range from like 80 all the way to 800 to 900 students within that discipline. So so you'll be covering 19 events over 9 days. And these events can vary from like a drag show, dodgeball, pancake breakfast, movie night, all the way to like even simpler tasks such as collecting food donations for the campus food bank, monetary donations, or even donating blood. So regardless of how much you'd like to interact with people, whether it's like high intensity or low intensity type social events, there's always an event for everyone to be able to join and to kind of contribute back to the engineering community here at the U of A.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, we will pass it off to Lance now.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Thanks, Alexis. So my name is Lance. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm in my third year of computer software engineering co-op here at the University of Alberta. So a little bit about me. I was born in the Philippines, in Cavite specifically. but I moved to Edmonton pretty early when I was around 3 years old. And I've been in Edmonton ever since. So I did high school here, and I'm at the U of A here in Edmonton. My main interest regarding engineering, I guess my career in general, is specifically pursuing medical technologies or just being in the medical field specifically. So a lot of my experiences here at the U of A involve something medicine related, as well as being engineering related as well. So this past semester and still ongoing, I'm volunteering with the Rehabilitation Robotics Lab, which is one of the many labs here at the U of A. This one specifically focuses on developing rehabilitation technologies. I'm helping out with an application there, filling out different forms so that the devices can be used for clinical testing. And then the other main thing I'm a part of at the U of A is that I'm the software lead at a club called Alberta Bionics, where I've been working on different biosensor projects. So using EMG, BCI, and machine learning to help power a lower limb prosthetic, hopefully, which will be at a competition if things go to schedule in 2028, since competitions are held every 4 years. Other stuff not related to engineering, I'm also part of Week of Welcome. I volunteered with it, as Michael mentioned. Volunteered there the past 2 years, and I'm planning on volunteering again this summer. And I'm also part of the student engagement leadership team here with the Faculty of Engineering, where I help volunteering at different events that help sort of liven up the engineering faculty. So we host different events. I volunteer at different areas, such as this area, or even visiting different high schools to, I guess, just talk about the Faculty of Engineering at the U of A. Some of my internship and co-op placements, since I'm in third year, I've only completed one, but I'm currently in a co-op placement right now. So the one I completed, similar to Mikhail, I was a bridge to engineering program instructor back this past summer. And currently, from January until August, I'm working as a software engineer at the Glen Rose Rehabilitation Hospital, which again is pretty med related. So now moving on to a couple of pictures. The stuff on the right side, they're mostly club related stuff. So on the top right here, that's one of the events that my club held, where we had a sort of meeting or workshop with a couple of engineers in the States, a couple of big companies, and they just told us about the hiring process, how to sort of look for jobs, and how to prepare for different job interviews. So that's one of the many cool things my club does. Another thing on the bottom right, another club related thing, we held a design review for a specific subsystem of the club, specifically the transmission of the prosthetic. So I'm not part of this team since it's mostly mechanical and electrical work. But we held a design review where people club-wide and some professors listened in and critiqued the presentation, see if we missed any parts, if there's anything we should focus on for the next design review before we move on to the next iteration of the prosthetic. This photo of me wearing these wires on my head. So this is me playing with a BCI headset, which is collecting EEG signals from the brain, which are electrical signals that your brain output. And the goal for this was to use those electrical signals to train some sort of machine learning model so that it could classify um, some of your different thoughts using something called motor imagery. And then, as Mikhail and Michael mentioned, there are many conferences that you can attend. The conference I attended in October was the Alberta Biomedical Engineering Conference. It's held in Banff. That was our club's first time attending it, and we plan on attending it again this coming October, and this time having a poster to present. And then this is just a picture of the mountains in Banff. Very cloudy that day, so not really any good pictures. And then finally, on the top left is me volunteering with Week of Welcome, as I mentioned earlier. I made many good friends volunteering, meeting other faculty leads and other volunteers there. So now I'll be passing it on over to Krista.
Hello, everyone. I'm Krista Madrio. I use she, her pronouns. I am a third year mechanical engineering co-op student here at the University of Alberta. I was born in Leyte, Philippines, and moved up north in Grand Prairie when I was 9. And just a little bit about me. I have always loved space and stargazing growing up, and I thought about the different worlds out there and how we could explore them. Come to find out that people have been out there and want to keep going. So for as long as I could remember, I dreamt of pursuing a career in the space industry. I'm very passionate about interplanetary travel, airplanes, and rocket science. So I was definitely sure about pursuing engineering and more specifically, aerospace engineering in the future. So I knew mechanical engineering was my path, and so I applied for it after the first general engineering year and ended up getting a placement in a co-op. I received my first co-op placement last year in May 2024 as a project coordinator for Enoch Civil Construction, where I got to learn how to manage construction projects from start to finish, including budgeting, scheduling, and coordinating with subcontractors. The project management skills that I learned there definitely helped me with my role as the president of a club here at the University of Alberta called Mission Spacewalker. And we do pretty cool things. Um, and yeah, I've got an upcoming co-op this May as well. So I'll be able to take on more industry experience soon. And just a little bit of a breakdown of the projects that we've definitely took on for Mission Spacewalker. During my second year, I started a sub team to participate in the Canadian Stratospheric Balloon Competition, where we got to develop a payload to test on a stratospheric balloon that travels up to to near space for research. And at that same year, Mission Spacewalker also participated in a Canadian analog research expedition, where they developed an experiment to test in an analog environment. And this year, our proposal was admitted for the Canadian Reduced Gravity Experiment competition, where we will be testing our payload in microgravity, which is super, super exciting. And I can show you a few pictures of my experience so far in the next slide. So here are just a few of some pictures of my experience at the university, except for the image at the bottom left corner there. That's a picture of Mission Spacewalker's previous members, McKenna Kuzik and Jennifer Yip, who have also participated in the microgravity challenge I mentioned previously. And they got to float in microgravity, which is super, super cool. And I'll definitely be looking forward to that this coming November. That clip there, the moving little solar array system, is the experiments that we built for the stratospheric balloon experiment that I also mentioned earlier. And the image beside that is the Canadian Space Agency getting the balloon ready for our flight. And my sub team for that competition is the image below, where we got to visit the Canadian Space Agency headquarters in Montreal, which was super fun. And the image above that is my current team, Mission Spacewalker, which is an all-women and gender diverse group of students. That image below the balloon is a picture of me and astronaut Dr. Shauna Pandya, which was actually taken recently. And yeah, that picture beside the balloon is a recent outreach event that I currently participated in for Canada's largest robotics competition. If any of you are interested in that, they also take in high school students as well as university, as far as I know. And the last image there is just a picture of me sputtering. And yeah, that's just a bit about me. I can also answer some questions about student project clubs here at the university and a bit about mechanical engineering. Thank you. I believe I'm the last one.
Awesome. Thank you, Krista. So I'm just going to speak very briefly about the required courses for admission into the Faculty of Engineering in case any of you are interested in applying, haven't applied yet. So if you're studying in Alberta, there are 5 courses that you would need, and these are the Alberta course codes for them. So English 30-1, Math 30-1, Math 31, Physics 30, and Chem 30. If you're not studying in Alberta, then it would just be the grade 12 equivalents of these courses, and you can find all of the course equivalents at uab.ca/programs. The competitive average for the program is low 90s, and so we always encourage students to apply early. So if you're not in grade 12 this year, applications always open on October 1st. And then they are closing on March 1st. So if you are in grade 12, you do have until March 1st to apply, but we would recommend getting in your application sooner just to make sure that you're good to go. So you could visit uab.ca/apply for that information. And if you are a transfer student, then we would use your most recent 24 credits to determine your average. And we would use these grade 12 courses as a checklist item. So we're just making sure that they've been completed either in high school or that you've taken a post-secondary equivalent. Sometimes with those transfer courses, it can be a little bit complicated. So if you have questions, please send us an email. Our email is enginfo@ualberta.ca. And I'm also going to put it in the chat for everyone, along with any relevant links that come up during our Q&A. But with that, it is time for our Q&A. So use the Q&A function to submit your questions. I just ask that you don't spam the Q&A because it will make it a little bit harder for us to get to everyone. But I am going to stop sharing my screen now and pull up our Q&A. And so if you have questions about anything that anyone presented at any point in time, feel free to throw it in there and I will start asking these questions to our students to answer. So they can all turn on their cameras and we're here to provide you with all of the info you're looking for. So just very quickly, when will the U of A send out application-based scholarships? So application-based scholarship decisions are coming out kind of early March. Keep an eye on your email for that information. Now, let's see. Oh, what are the best locations at North Campus where engineering students can collaborate, study, and work on group projects?
I guess I could take this one on. So there's a lot of group study spaces here on at the engineering side of campus. Specifically, if you head to the electrical computer or ESERF, I forget what the acronym is, but it's kind of connected to the Engineering Teaching and Learning Center. It's just on the west side of it. There's a couple of big rooms where you'll actually be able to kind of work in groups. Not only that, but you're also free to visit the various libraries that we have, as well as other spaces on campus that is just open to the to students to utilize. There are some buildings that do have 24/7 open access as well. For example, the Students' Union building, such as the basement of it, that you're also able to meet up with friends and to just study together.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And one thing to note that there was included in a couple of photos that people had is that we also have the Alco Engineering Garage on campus. And it's a fantastic resource. It's in one of our engineering buildings and it's free for anyone at the U of A to use. And they'll train you on all of the equipment that you need. So I even noticed in Krista's video when the solar rays were going up and down, it looked like that was in our Alco garage. And I know that a lot of our students will use Alco's resources for school projects or for student group projects. Okay. Mikhail, was it difficult transferring? I already kind of touched on what the subjects you needed to transfer were. But if you want to talk about kind of your transfer process and how you found that transition, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So, again, for transparency, I'm known across the Faculty of Engineering as the transfer guy. This has been my specialty in extracurriculars. So honestly, it depends on many things. Transferring can be difficult, especially because if coming right out of high school, a lot of times you pick a school closer to you. And so it's really just delaying that 1 year of moving away from home, which is a big struggle. Obviously you need to decide finding a place to live if you're transferring from outside of Edmonton, from residence to rent. There are so many options available. I myself decided to do residence. But when it comes to the actual transferring process, the U of A both has official transfer programs where the school you go to actually, you're going to U of A right after. And so the courses you take are laid out for you. and are equivalent to the courses here. So you will actually, you don't have to worry too much about like, will this be able to be transferred? All of those courses are outlined and set up for you to be equivalent, and therefore all of them will transfer if you pass the courses and the requirements there. But then there's also transferring from a non-transfer program, in which case it can be difficult and it is a bit more stressful in the uncertainty aspect of will it be able to transfer these credits. So the big thing you can do there is you actually need to talk to kind of two, maybe three people. You need to talk to the school you're transferring from, either advisors there, professors there who will then tell you who to talk to, and get all of your information compiled from the school you are at, and then two, the school you are transferring to. So admissions, advising, and recruitment at that other school, so that you know from both ends what credits can transfer and what won't, and then you can work that out. So those are the two different routes. They differ wildly. I did do, I think I said, an official transfer program, but I've also supported a lot of students through the non-official transfer program. And again, as a final thing, like to just touch really on that difficulty aspect. The biggest difficulty in that is a lot harder is when you're right at U of A from first year. Even though you got equivalent courses or things like that, it sets a structure that might differ at your other school or get you used to the layout of the campus, things like that. And so you do get delayed a year on that. And so my biggest recommendation there is if you're from outside the city or within the city, take some time over the summer before you actually start after transferring, get a lay of the land here, talk to people who have transferred, especially from whatever school you're transferring from, if you know someone or have means to get in touch with them, to know exactly what that was like for them, ask them more concrete questions, make sure you have your housing figured out, and all of that general knowledge of the school done in August so that you can come in September and feel like I can just go in, I've got an understanding and tackle my classes as if I've been here all along. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's
And I
my
have just thrown some resources into the chat. So one is a link to our webpage that lists all of our official transfer agreements with various institutions. So if you're interested in that route, you can take a look there. I've also included our recruitment email. So that's for anyone to contact us at all if you have any questions about coming to the U of A. And I added a link to our transfer website, just where you can get some general transfer information and use our transfer credit search tool. Okay, this is directed to Michael Chang. So do you advise that I study chemistry engineering focusing on oil and gas, or directly study petroleum engineering to pursue work in the oil and gas industry?
All right, so great question. Honestly, chemical engineering and petroleum engineering really do differ in terms of what they're covered. Specifically with chemical engineering itself, you kind of learn a lot more about distillation columns, reboilers, and more so like working in a overall plant based setting. So you'll be looking at different reactions that occur, like what's going in, what's going out, and stuff like that. So chemical is a bit more, I guess, suited towards the production side. Specifically with my, I guess, specialization in oil and gas, there are just a couple of courses that you do have to take that are a bit more focused on the oil and gas side, which makes it a oil and gas kind of specialization. Petroleum engineering, on the other hand, you're focused a lot more on in terms of like the soil composition, what the ground looks like, and kind of what things are composed of. So I do believe you take some earth and atmospheric science courses as well as part of your first and second year. So it does differ between chemical engineering and petroleum engineering as a whole. So depends on what you want to do.
Perfect. And there are lots of resources to help you during your first year to help understand all the different disciplines. So this is a question for all of you. And I'm kind of combining a couple of them. So, what was your daily routine like during your first year? Or what would you say a day in the life of an engineering student looks like? And to tag on to that question, did you have to give up all of your social life? Did you have to give up all of your free time to pursue engineering?
I guess I'll start off with this one. So my daily routine in first year, I got lucky with my schedule where my classes were mostly in the afternoons. I only had labs in the morning. So if I had a lab, I'd go to that in the morning, and then I had my classes in the afternoon. Afterwards, I would go straight home and I would study at home, which works for some people, works for other people. I personally don't do that anymore. I can't study at home, so I stay on campus quite late every day, usually around 7 or 8 p.m., just so I get all my stuff done on campus. And then once I get home, I'm just home. I don't have to do any schoolwork. Obviously, during busier times like midterms, I still study at home, but primarily throughout the year, I get all my stuff done on campus so that I can separate that work-life balance. Um, Also, during my first and second year, I was also working, so I didn't have to give that up. I worked a part-time job at McDonald's over the weekends, so I didn't have to purely just focus on engineering. I had time to do other things such as work and other extracurriculars, such as like playing volleyball once a week. So I still had time to do that. So as much as people say you have to give up everything in first year engineering, like engineering takes over your life, it doesn't. You just need to learn how to time manage really well, which are skills that you learn throughout your degree. It's still something I'm learning to like optimize throughout my degree, even as a third year. So if it takes time for you to find out what works, that's okay. Don't stress about that.
I'll just add a little bit onto that as well. I definitely learned that uh, studying by myself is not the most ideal, but yeah, you definitely um, figure that out on your own as you uh, learn your study habits. Um, I was also staying at a residence here in campus, Lister, if any of you have heard of it. And they do a lot of events in the residence as well, including Lister Dodgeball League. And they do a lot of, yeah, really cool things for students. So didn't have to give those up. I attended most of them. It was quite tough, but it, definitely helped me balance that part of my social life as well. But yeah, definitely just need to figure that out on your own, see what works for you. But I was definitely staying with a roommate at the time, so studying in campus was a move for me.
And just on that note as well, there is an engineering cohort floor on Lister, like in Lister Hall. So if you want to live with other engineering students, that is absolutely an option. I know someone asked about that. So you can actually request to be placed on the cohort floor when residence reaches out to you, likely in May, to get more information. So yes, that is certainly something that we would recommend. And you've kind of touched on it already, but for all of you, what did you find? What study techniques currently work for you? And what did you kind of have to transition from high school? Like, did you have to find a new way to take notes? What ways do you recommend taking notes is another question we've gotten. So kind of those like university 101 things.
Yeah. Um, kind of everyone kind of differs in how they study. So I think honestly, the biggest thing there is to just take some time again over the summer, just really developing throughout your time in university, the pinpoint what works best for you and try different avenues. So for me, I'm a really slow reader. And so reading is not usually my best bet for studying. So I like to condense information. And I'm a big auditory and visual learner. So I do a lot of things there. Um, as for where I study or how I integrate that, it depends on the setting. And for everyone, some people they can't focus by themselves because they're gonna get distracted. They're gonna go on YouTube, things like that. So a lot of people I know, um, either have a dedicated individual or a friend group that you lock in together, and you keep each other accountable. Like, hey, we're not going on our phones right now. We're all focusing. That's one thing a lot of people do. And then there's the exact opposite, where for me, I get distracted if you put literally a complete stranger next to me. I'm somehow going to rant to them for the next 2 hours and put everything off. So in that setting, you really need to find a dedicated quiet space, which the biggest recommendation is do not make it your bedroom. Do not separate your study space from your room, because once your bed's in there, you're going to sleep. You're gonna go, oh, chill. I do it all the time. Sadly, my study space is my bedroom, and half the time I end up in the bed. So you really need to find a dedicated space that works for you. And then as for or the last part I remember of taking notes, a lot of people nowadays, I would say the majority, tablets, computers, writing in those means. I'm one of the few paper users I know. Um, so pen and paper works very well too. Same thing with doing assignments. A lot of people actually don't handwrite their assignments. They use OneNote or other online softwares that allow them to copy and paste the questions into their work and then easily erase and rewrite things. And then you have people like me who do it by hand, and I manually erase everything. So it's really just finding what works for you and finding that balance. But again, at the end of the day, once you get that set up, same as kind of what Lance said on the last thing in regards to first year and just in general in your life, time management, prioritizing is what the biggest skills you're going to learn entering university. Not the technical skills, not anything of that sort. It's going to be figuring out how to take care of yourself, as you're no longer in high school, well, if you're coming from high school, or if you're coming from a different setting like a college, a polytechnic, like where those are a lot of hands-on things. This is a lot of just general thinking, and it's not as much hands-on, as you need to look into things and find what works.
Adding on to the time management aspect, one thing that I do to help myself time manage is having like calendar. So using either Google Calendar, or the other calendar I use is Notion, which is where it's just a place I can put all of my assignment deadlines, my exams, or like other things like extracurriculars I do. So I can see like when my classes are, when I'm busy. So seeing it like out in front of me, it helps you visualize like when do I have free time? When can I prioritize doing this? When is something coming up? So that is one tip I will give regarding time management.
I also just want to add something that I learned in my first year as well. I learned this the hard way, but there, you once you jump from high school and university, you kind of get to that wow, this is a lot of assignments and it takes a lot of time. So time management, as Mikhail, sorry, and Lance mentioned. But more importantly to me, I thought I'll just get everything done as soon as I can so I can do the rest of the things. And that meant staying up very late until 4 a.m. in the morning. And that was definitely a terrible habit that I built. But as soon as I jumped into second year, I definitely prioritized sleep a lot, and it changed a lot of things. So yeah, definitely prioritize sleep. So maybe midnight is maximum for me.
Great. Thank you all so much. I also did put a link in the chat for the Engineering Student Academic Center, like the academic sports that we have. So it is free tutoring for small group and one-on-one for every course in your first year. So it's located in ETLC. It's on a drop-in basis. And normally your TAs, so the kind of like professors' assistants, are also working at the Academic Success Center, and they know what your assignments look like, so they're able to give you that help, and it is entirely free, because we did have a question about that. So we've gotten quite a few questions about co-op. So can you explain what is the process like to get a co-op position? Are you placed? Do you apply for these co-ops? What has that co-op experience been like? And are there any downsides to doing co-op that you've experienced? As we did have a question, if there's any kind of negatives to taking the co-op program.
I guess just a brief introduction. Oh, sorry. Just a brief introduction on what co-op is for people who don't know what it is. So in engineering, after your first general year, you can either go into the traditional stream or the co-op stream. So the traditional stream is just you're taking classes, and then in the summer, it's your summer break. Obviously, you can do other stuff, but you're not required to take any classes over the summer unless it's in your schedule. But usually it's just you do fall and winter. Yeah, and you finish in 4 years, typically. With co-op, on the other hand, you have an extra year because you'll be doing work terms in between some of your academic terms. So for the remaining, well, after you've done your first year, you have 4 more years if you finish on schedule. Either you're working or you're doing an academic term. So the difference is you just take an extra year to do some work stuff. Yeah, if Michael, you want to go ahead and answer your part of the questions.
Yep. So I guess when it comes to actually finding co-ops and all that, there are kind of two methods to go about it. The first one is you could go through a site called Campus Bridge, and usually, I guess the semester before your co-op term starts. So for example, if your co-op term is specifically starting in September, then beginning of May, you'll find a lot of job postings that are constantly being posted up there, depending on kind of the work term you're on. So for some programs, you have 5 work terms. For other programs, you kind of have 4. And then each level does differ in terms of what you're doing. I believe the first 2 ones are just general engineering, and then afterwards your 3rd, 4th, and 5th must be specific to your degree. From there, you kind of look for a couple of jobs that you may be interested in. Some of them will be inside the city, some of them will be outside of the city, some will provide relocation assistance, some won't. You really have to read the fine print on there. And then from there, you just apply to it like a normal job. So you'll have like a resume, your transcript, as well as your cover letter that you'll need to submit. From there, you kind of go through the regular interview process of it. On the other hand, you can also go through family members, or if you have like connections that you know that you are able to get a co-op job from, that's also allowed too. You just need to ensure that it is specific and correct to your work term level, as well as any requirements that they may have additionally. And for that, once you do get your like whole job, once you get the letter, you'll also need to get the co-op office to approve of it as well before you can actually utilize it as your co-op.
Yeah. And honestly, there's so many different things kind of about the co-op experience that really vary. You coming into it, your very first one, as the others mentioned, like everyone's new. It can be hard, especially in some more or specialized fields, to find but that's why in our program, your first one doesn't technically need to be engineering. It's engineering adjacent. So Lance and I with Bridge to Engineering, we didn't technically do actual engineering work in there, but we touched engineering subject matter, like the classes you're going to study. But then also just got to do things like make videos, teach people, and things like that. So that really helps alleviate some of that stress of that first co-op. But then there's also tons of jobs to look into. Like I saw one of the questions was, is there jobs outside of oil and gas? How are things really feasible? And the answer is yes, but the answer is also tentative to your willingness to do things, right? So do you want to go big into a job in the communications sector? Alberta doesn't really have that large of a communications presence, but you can do co-ops, or if you're in traditional, you can look for jobs as well over the summer. in other parts of the country or outside of the country. So Ontario has a very large communications sector or profile there with jobs with like Nokia or Huawei, I believe, as well. Tons of jobs in that sector. Oil and gas obviously hugely dominates Alberta as just a good go-to if you want a job. There's tons. However, another one that people neglect is massive everywhere is construction. The construction sector, or just general consulting sectors, is even larger than the oil and gas sector. And that's really, even if you're not in like civil engineering, a lot of electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, even materials engineers and chemical engineers end up in the construction sector. And it really, it's a fulfilling job no matter what you do. And everything again varies. Where are you willing to go? Do you have a car? In co-op, you don't need to have a car. I don't have one. I don't even have my license. However, you need to realize as the personal repercussions of that means there are employers who require licenses and job postings where you need to have your GED. You need to have all of these things figured out. So you will lose out on some job opportunities, but it doesn't mean you're out of luck in terms of jobs. And just because I did see one question, these are all paid co-ops. In the co-op program, to avoid people getting jobs where employers might take advantage of them, they have to be screened, and all, you get paid at least a minimum decided by the universities. The intricacies I won't get into, but so just know when you're looking through things through a co-op means, you will be getting paid. So these are all things to consider. And I'm sorry for rambling. One last thing I'd say there is co-op isn't always better. It is a choice. Many because there are downsides to it. Your 4-year degree has now turned into 5 years. You're here another year. If financially there's concerns there, that's another year of things like tuition and things like that, and paying into the co-op program. So some people choose not to go into it because they already have connections in industry. They know in the summer, I've got this job lined up working for X company, or I've got this family friend. And so they choose to finish their degree earlier and use their own opportunities. Co-op really helps for people who don't have those opportunities or want to diversify from the current opportunities available. Like if their family is in the engineering sector, but they're in construction and I want to do electronics, co-op will then give me access to a diverse range of job opportunities.
Great, thank you. I know co-op is a big topic and a lot of students are very interested in hearing more about it. So thank you all for that. I have noticed that there are quite a few questions about the difficulty of different disciplines. So basically, like in getting into them. So basically, when you are being placed into a discipline, in the end of your first year, you fill out a discipline ranking form. And in your first year, you have the opportunity to learn about every single discipline that the U of A offers. And then you are placed into a discipline based on your first year GPA, but relative to other students, not against a rubric. So what that means is that we're not looking at it and saying, okay, if you have a 2.7 GPA, that means you're going to be in civil. And if you have a 2.5, that means that you're going to be in electrical. But instead, that just means that it sets the order that we look at students' ranking forms. So we look at the higher achieving students first, and then they're more likely to get their first choice because they're the first forms that we're looking at. So there are seats available in the program. And then we go through and place everyone into their programs. So that's when you would identify if you're interested in traditional or co-op routes. And so that way we can't actually say what discipline is the hardest to get into because it will fluctuate every single year based on students and the program sizing and availability, as well as what the areas of interest are. So like mining engineering and petroleum engineering used to be incredibly popular. So it was a bit more difficult to get into that program because so many people wanted those seats. Nowadays, we see that interest in computer engineering. We'll certainly see that interest for robotics and mechatronics next year. So those programs, it very much changes year to year. So unfortunately, we can't say that. As well as all of the registration-based questions, you will be receiving information to your email on March 7th about how to register in your courses. So you can visit uab.ca/reg101. We're doing tons of workshops. This information will be sent directly to your inbox as well. So don't worry about registration right now. You can't register in classes until April. So I appreciate that you're very keen about it, and that's fantastic. The information is coming. Absolutely. All right. Krista, there's a question for you, and it's asking, what's it like studying in a male-dominated field? How have you found your experience within engineering as someone who's female identifying?
Thank you for that question. That's a good one. Honestly, it's not as daunting as most have made it sound. I mean, I'm guessing that's why this question was brought up, but everyone is just, kind of handling engineering in their own way. And I believe, in my experience anyway, and I am in a club with a lot of the engineering women. But it is a little bit, daunting at the start, but there isn't very much, I mean, I guess there isn't very much discrimination going on. Everyone has the same opportunity. And honestly, I think it's a power move in my own way. I think it's really fun. I mean, that's why I very much talk a lot about my club because it's very empowering to be, kind of the small population in engineering. But yeah, definitely no fear. It's everyone's really, really just focusing on their own pace of engineering, and it's not anything serious that people really worry about. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Great, thank you. So we do have a question. How big and how diverse are all the different engineering clubs and groups? And is Alberta big on the SAE? I'm not sure what that is. So if you guys know, then you can take that on. But if not, no worries.
Oh yeah. They're very big. And for SAE, so the Society of Automation Engineers, which usually people associate to Formula One, but though also includes aero design. And we've got tons of clubs and they are very big. So our F1 team is quite large and recently transitioned to also doing electrical F1 on vehicles. And there involve people from business, engineering, all sorts of fields in designing their cars. But we've got tons of car clubs too. We have EcoCar, which does hydrogen fuel cell based car design, as well as Solar Car, which is newer, that does solar car based design. Going outside of cars, we've got Alberta Loop, which does trying to design a magnetic based hyperloop system, or Concrete Toboggan, which self-explanatory, designing concrete toboggan, go down a hill real fast, don't crash. So all of these, they vary in size wildly. And I'm gonna leave the discussion on the robotics, mechatronics things to the others to discuss, because I feel they know more on those than me. But they do all vary in size. And there really is, I would say, like 90% of the things you can be interested in, there's a thing for you. But then there's also constantly new clubs forming to maybe fill in those remaining small gaps. Like those separate from Bionics, which Lance is a part of. Alberta Heart is a new club, design-based club, which I believe it's around the designing an artificial heart. I don't know if yeah, Lance is confirming. Yeah. So these new clubs can still form. And they really just let you get more of a technical foundation outside of your classes and also just really make friends and have a community behind you. So I'll pass it over to the others to talk more on the other fields of the design teams. But yeah.
I guess I'll talk about Bionics. So I am the software lead for Bionics. We are not as big as some of the other clubs since we sort of just rebranded and started recruiting again this past fall semester. So that's when things have started to kick up. I think right now we may have around 40-ish active members, maybe more, maybe less, depending on midterms and people being busy. But yeah, it's pretty fun, like being part of a smaller design team as well. Since I'm one of the leads, I'm more involved in the big decision making as opposed to if I was at a bigger club. There's more people to I guess contend with when it comes to like different ideas. So I enjoy that responsibility, but it totally depends on like what level of responsibility you want as well. I don't really know much about the robotics or mechatronics side either, so I don't know if you guys, the rest of you, have any answers to that.
I can talk a little bit about some of the robotics project groups here. So yeah, there is a lot of variety in size. We have the autonomous robotic vehicle project, which is one of the biggest, including alongside Alberta Sat. So they have about members, they get about 120 every year. It can vary as the year progresses, as Lance mentioned, different commitments throughout the year with exams and everything. But yeah, I definitely would like to add on the how much commitment you would like to contribute. So if you would prefer to be more involved as you jump into a club, definitely smaller clubs are gonna be able to give you that. Um, I can say that about my current club as well. We did recruit about 60 members, but yeah, that definitely varies throughout the year. So they're all very hands-on involved in the technical side of things, whether they would prefer being more involved in the admin side. It's really up to you. Yeah, so it's however you want to contribute to a group as well. But outside of ARVP or the clubs that I already previously mentioned, there's Sphere, which is a project group that develops rovers, and they're a bit bigger than Mission Spacewalker, I believe, around 40, 60 berries. And what am I missing? I believe those are most. Oh, there's also Star, and they are a rocketry research team as well. So there's a lot of variety there. It's really, the world is your oyster for clubs, but yeah, it's definitely fun. I definitely recommend.
Well, I will say as well, kind of Alexis kind of put out there that there is like over 400 clubs at the U of A. When you do arrive here during like your first week or second week back, there's going to be something called Engineering Carnival, which is going to usually occur out in the engineering quad. We invite a lot of our engineering discipline clubs, as well as project groups and advocacy groups as well, to kind of table out there to show off some of their projects, but also it gives you a good opportunity to kind of sign up for any clubs that you may be interested in as well. If you're not into the engineering side of clubs, you can also check out the Week of Welcome Clubs Fair tent as well. There are many different clubs out there. So, for example, there's like the Stoller Youth Committee, Relay for Life, a chess club, a golfing club. Like, there's so many that you can like look into. But I guess biggest thing is to go visit it and to go check them out.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a question for Lance, and they're wondering kind of what your job at Glenrose looked like when you were working there as a software engineer. And also, if someone could touch on just kind of the difference between computer engineering versus software engineering, because we get that question a lot too.
Yeah. So at the Glenrose, if you all know what the Glenrose is, it's a rehabilitation hospital here in Edmonton. I'm working in the research and innovation department. So a lot of the stuff I do there, along with my other co-op students who are in mechanical or in electrical engineering, we're doing a lot of like research projects or I guess innovation projects as well. So either the clinicians at the Glenrose or some other companies that are medicine related will come approach us with a sort of novel project that they'd like, and then we look into it, see if it's feasible, if it will be beneficial to like having at the Glenrose. And then depending on if us and the staff there think it is, then we proceed forward with it, look into different ways of actually implementing it, and trying to make some prototypes to have it be used in the rehab hospital. So the stuff I've mostly been working on, a lot of it in the first month was research, so looking into the brain specifically, um, dementia research, a lot of Excel work as well, so coding some macros using Excel. And the most recent project I was given is related to BCI or brain computer interfaces, which, as I touched on earlier, is collecting EEG signals from the brain. Um, so I'm working with the BCI team there, collecting the signals to sort of classify them and map them to different outputs. So that's what I'm doing at the Glenrose. As for the difference between computer engineering and software engineering, I like to think of it putting like computer engineering, computer science, and software engineering on a spectrum. So on the left side, we have computer engineering. On the right side, we have computer science. So computer engineering is has more of a focus on both the hardware and the software side of things. So you'll be doing, depending on interest, you'll be doing like low level programming using C. You could also do like software stuff with other embedded systems. Software engineering is more focused on software, but still touches on the hardware a little bit, not as much as computer engineers. Computer scientists don't really touch hardware at all in their classes unless they work with it in projects. They're more focused on the mathematical proofs and concepts and applying them into code. So hopefully that answers the question about that.
That was a great answer. Thank you so much. And I am just putting a link in the chat here. It has what we refer to as discipline sheets or like career sheets. So if you're interested in learning about any of the disciplines that we offer and what careers exist within them, as well as like a general description, I would definitely recommend looking at that resource. So, how many students per class are on average, and how did you navigate bigger class sizes from university or from high school to university when you have like 300 students in a class versus some of those smaller classes or the labs that go with them? And what does a lab actually entail?
I guess I can start off. So, honestly, when it comes to classes, in your first year, you'll see upwards of like 200 to almost 300, sometimes even 400 people within your class itself. I know for some people, if you're coming like from a small town or internationally, like that might be super frightening, but don't worry, everyone else is probably going to be super frightened as well or super scared. The best thing is to honestly go to the person that you're sitting beside and talk with them. Introduce yourself and like kind of build your friends that way. Another good thing as well is to try to stay in the same like spot as well. That way, they might come back and then you can continue to talk, etc. Kind of for the more smaller classes as well. Those are more towards your upper years. So once you like once you start getting to your third or fourth year courses, and these are denoted by like the 300 or 400, or sorry, 3XX or 4XX. From there, that's how you determine if it's like third or fourth year. Essentially, those are kind of a bit more smaller in terms of scale. Again, they're going to be more so part of your cohort or your people that you're kind of in the same degree with. So after first year, once you do get into a discipline, you're usually with a group of people that you'll be probably taking classes with more so like for the next 3 or 4 years. But I'd strongly suggest, especially for first year, be open and like talk to your neighbors, talk to friends, and try to build those relations. As mentioned earlier as well, it's very important that you kind of work together on a team to go through some of your assignments. And yeah, that's how you make friends.
Thank you. And so just on the labs portion, what does like a math lab entail? Because 9 times out of 10, when you're coming from high school, a lab is where you'd go to do like titrations for chem class. So if it says a math lab, what does that mean? Like what are you doing in these labs? Is it titrations? Is it, how do you do that for math?
Yeah. So so your first year math classes, at least like for things here, your labs, a lot of times there are quizzes. There are quizzes in these slots, um, such as in your second year. So I'm personally not the biggest fan of the label of labs, as you could also kind of more so refer to them as seminars, which are labeled differently in university. They more so align with things you tackle there, where they might go over very briefly like a type of mathematical problem to solve, but then other weeks, then you have to solve those problems in a quiz in that time slot. So the math labs are kind of weird in that sense. And as Alexa said, your titrations, things like that, your first year chemistry labs are going to be a lot more what you think of when you think labs. You're going to go in to dedicated spaces to conduct chemistry. You're going to be wearing your lab coat, wearing safety gloves, the whole shebang, and performing experiments, and then filling out information on that, and potentially doing in quizzes on that information. It's more so your engineering labs where things go big and they get more fun and more different as you get more into your degree. So in electrical, we do have a lot of labs from everything we do are in our power engineering or power electronics labs. We're working in a research facility here where they have very expensive equipment that they really don't want us to destroy or shock ourselves on. And we have to be careful with things like that. And we're conducting tests there. For electronics courses, we have our own lab kits and we're making the circuits in the lab or at home and testing things there. And it's more free form. For a lot of computer based things, AI or things of that nature, you're going to be using software on your computer for the lab, such as for like media processing, just general coding in labs, or MATLAB's getting phased out a bit, but it still is used by some disciplines where you're going to use it a lot for these different labs. So AI software use is big in labs, but then there's also some labs where I don't really see them as much in electrical, where I believe you're actually doing some like materials-based testing and you're going out, um, things like that. I don't know too much on the mechanical side. Chris, if you know anything on their kind of labs, or Michael, if you know anything on the chemical kind of lab side.
For mechanical so far, from the labs that I've taken that are mechanical based, um, since I'm still in my third year, sort of a resequenced year, since a bit of a complicated story, but yeah, you're gonna see that a lot of students are gonna be resequencing. But yeah, for what I've experienced so far, I've definitely gone through with all the material testing labs that Mikhail mentioned, tension and compression, something of that nature. But just to kind of circle back to what labs typically look like. So yeah, it definitely varies from class to class. Some of them are graded, some of them aren't, and some of them are actually seminars, as Mikhail mentioned. So it's definitely something that you kind of just learned in the first week of school when they discuss the syllabus. So or more information on the website as well. But yeah, as far as I know, that's kind of what they are structured like.
I will say for chemical engineering, there's a big difference, or there's a misconception that people think chemical engineering is you play with different substances and you make a reaction. That is not what chemical engineering is. Chemical engineering is actually looking at in terms of like the pumps, the pipes, and all the process that involves with that, and all the processes like within a plant that would involve with it. If you're looking for more reactions and all that, you actually would want to look for materials engineering instead. That being said, though, chemical engineering, we usually play around with a lot of like pumps to kind of determine how much pressure is needed, what the water flow rate needs to be. We also kind of cover various distillation columns as well in terms of like, what temperature do you need to set, how things look like. So they're kind of more, they are labs to an extent, but you're mostly playing with water and pumps and switches to kind of determine what you're learning. But similarly to what Michaela and Krista said as well, some labs are for grades, some labs are not for grades. Some are more so like you learn stuff, but you write a big like report afterwards as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we are coming into the final 10 minutes of our event today. So I wanted to pose all of you with a question, and you can all go through one at a time to answer. But what would you say is your favorite memory from your time within the Faculty of Engineering? And what is one piece of advice that you would give an incoming first-year student who's just finishing high school? And it could be any piece of advice, like anything from read the syllabus to the cookies in Lister Hall are really good, and you can put them in the toaster and they're even better, but they will get a little upset if you put cookies in the toaster too many times.
Well, I don't know what Alexis been doing in with the cookies and the toaster. Let me tell you what. I lived in Lister 2 years and I didn't see that, but okay. But honestly, looking back as a fifth year, I've been at the University of Alberta now almost 4 years. There's so many different types of memories. It's always impossible to pick a favorite. So kind of splitting it kind of three ways. My biggest kind of memories for me, from a personal and moral standpoint, is really just getting to both advocate to and work with amazing people, from students to, especially in my case, the faculty of engineering's advisors and the College of Natural and Applied Science recruitment team with Alexis here. I've gotten a great pleasure to work with them on various initiatives and supporting high schoolers and more so transfer students, really feel supported and more engaged. Then when I was involved, we were still engaged, but there was some work for improvement, and I'm happy to say that a lot of improvements have been made. So that's from that standpoint. For me, my biggest memories definitely come from ESS, the Engineering Student Society, where it's kind of been my home away from home. Before I was a VP, I organized our first year engineering retreat. And it was a massively successful event that always brings me joy to think back on. But honestly, as VP External, I'm in charge of conferences and competitions. And so I've had the pleasure of attending 9 different conferences on behalf of the University of Alberta. I'm traveling the country, meeting people from all of the other engineering schools. I forged some of my largest friendships with people who don't even go to this school, through meeting them at these conferences. And so I would say all of those conferences combined form kind of my biggest memory there. And kind of for my piece of advice, I would say in that same vein, meet people. I'm not even talking about only at U of A. Get in touch with people at other schools, both inside and outside of engineering. Their experiences might differ, but if you're both in engineering, you can relate in some areas. And if you're not, now you have a friend at UCalgary, you have a friend at Dalhousie, UBC, you got friends everywhere. So really just get out there and meet people, because there's nothing really forcing you to interact or meet people like in the high school setting where you've got your designated small class or so. you really need to get out there to find people, and you will find people. There is always a group out there for you. So that's kind of my advice, and I'll pass it to whoever wants to take it next.
That's hard to follow up on, so I'll do my best to explain my favorite memory here. Similarly, there's just so much, um, just like so many memories I've made here. My favorite few, I'd say, as definitely volunteering with Week of Welcome or just like orientation in general, just helping out any incoming students. They don't even have to be engineering students, but is getting them comfortable with their first couple of days or weeks on campus. That first impression matters, and it definitely will hopefully help them be more comfortable, just settle in to university a lot better. I haven't been to 9 conferences, but I went to one in Banff this past October. So just going out with my club and just meeting a ton of new people, learning a ton of cool things about biomedical engineering in Banff was really cool. I got to hear about genetics to different prosthetics, other stuff like that, just anything med related. And I guess on a more personal and selfish level was when I went out to one of the recruitment events at my old high school. I talked to one of the teachers, and she was someone who's like directly benefited from the Glenrose, and she just told me how she was very thankful that I, like other people, were interested and had a passion for building those type of things. So knowing that the field I want to go into will affect other people in that sort of way has definitely made me proud about the path I will be hopefully going toward in the future. Oh yeah. As for advice, sorry. Piece of advice. Making friends is a good one. Stepping out of your comfort zone for sure. Um, I was afraid to join a club in my first year since I was quite like introverted in high school. But when I took that risk and joined Bionics, even took the risk in becoming a lead, it definitely made me more involved, and it upped my interest in engineering in many ways. So I got to learn more about the other disciplines. I got to take on a lot more responsibility, and I've made like many friends, whether they're people in my sub team or from other sub teams in my club. Definitely important to just step out of your comfort zone. You never know who you'll meet.
I guess I'll go next. Honestly, my favorite memory from the Faculty of Engineering is just being able to go on various experiential learning initiatives. So, like I kind of mentioned earlier in my introduction, that I was able to actually go visit the Royal Canadian Navy. And honestly, this is like something that I didn't expect to get selected for. And going there was a phenomenal trip. You kind of got to see a lot of like the back end of like what engineering means and like kind of how it applies to various different fields itself. So coming from a chemical engineering field, I didn't know like, oh, like what can what can an engineer do in the Navy? There's so much they can do. It involves like getting any ship fixed or like electrical issues and stuff like that. On top of that, I'd also say like being able to go to conferences or just competing in competitions itself. Something that you could brag about on your resume, and a lot of people love talking about that or just bringing it up. But also B, just being able to learn more about like what's outside in the world for you to kind of learn or to take back. A piece of advice I would say, get involved. Whether it's signing up for like one club or many clubs, just don't burn yourself out. It's important to be able to like engage with other people and to kind of see other people and build relationships and friendships that may eventually lead to your permanent job, or sorry, your co-op or your next permanent job, or even getting you like a super big raise down the line. So yeah, just get involved.
My experience, my favorite memory, I believe, is somewhat related to what the others have mentioned and quite anticipated, but definitely joining my club. Um, well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very passionate about space. So kind of jumping into that club and meeting someone who our previous president, who was actually an inspiring astronaut, just doing great things, kind of meeting people who are like that have made me really realize that, these are tangible dreams and, very much inspired me, which is what kept my sanity a little bit. But yeah, last month we I went to a Canadian Space Conference in Montreal to present a research in microgravity. And it was really cool. I got to meet the first Canadian astronaut, Marc Garneau. Um, I got a picture with him too, and I also got to meet the Canadian Space Agency president. It's a woman. I didn't even know, but it's Dr. Lisa Campbell. And yeah, that was my favorite experience so far. And it's funny because that was last month, and I think you kind of just build on your favorite experiences as you go on. But yeah, definitely too much to mention. As the others have also kind of touched on a little bit. So it's really, really fun. Um, for my advice, for first years, if you're already thinking about it, I definitely recommend living in residence if that's something that, yeah, you would like to consider. And for first years, that is Lister residence, which is something that we also touched in a little bit. Just build your social network and as much as you can or as much as you would like. Choosing your group wisely is definitely important, and surround yourself with people with similar goals that you would have. They've definitely significantly helped me with my studies so far. And yeah, I'd say I wouldn't even know where I'd be without them. And yeah, Blister food is pretty good. It's very diverse. So honestly, I had a good experience, but maybe others have different. But yeah, definitely recommend that.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today and be part of our panel presentation. And thank you to all of you who have attended our event. I do just have a couple things to kind of leave you with before we are officially done. So one thing is all of our key dates for this upcoming year are on this slide. So some things to keep in mind. March 1st is when fall admission deadlines, your application deadline is. So you need to get your application in by March 1st in order to be considered for admission for fall 2025. We are hosting multiple Registration 101 workshops, and you will be getting course registration information into your inboxes very soon. It'll be coming in next week, but there's lots of information also on our website, Reg 101. Course registration will open for you in April. On the topic of residence, if you are an incoming student, you do have guaranteed residence for your first year at the U of A, whether you're a transfer student or you're a high school student. So you do have to pay a $25 deposit by April 30th to secure your spot in residence, and you can do that at uab.ca/residence. If you currently have an offer of admission to the U of A, you have until May 1st to accept that offer. If you have not yet received an offer of admission, that's okay. We are continuing to send them out, and we will continue offering admission until late August, and you will have 30 days from your offer of admission to then pay your tuition deposit and accept your offer. And then August 1st is the deadline to submit all of your official documents if you are a high school student. If you are a transfer student, it is June 15th. And then if you're living in residence, move-in is August 25th, and it's orientation and week of welcome. So there's lots of really exciting things coming up, and it's a great campus community to be a part of. And if your question wasn't answered today, if it was more admissions-based or like case-specific, please send us an email at enginfo@ualberta.ca. We'll be happy to help you out. The other thing is you can book an advising session and meet one-on-one with one of our student recruiters, and that's at uab.ca/advising. So that is all from me. And I would just like to say thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for spending your evening with us, or if it is daytime for you, then spending your morning or afternoon. And we really do appreciate your time. Thank you, Mikhail, Lance, Michael, and Krista. I really appreciate you being here. Now there's two Mikhails. And thank you all again, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. So take care.